Hey everyone, here we are back again, Hannah Levin with Heartfelt Wellbeing for our Tuesday talk with Hannah. So, we're getting ready for Thanksgiving here in the States. I know some of you are not in the States, but most of you in my audience are. And we are celebrating this holiday, which is kind of an interesting holiday if you look at its origins and want to get into that, but I'm not going to get into that today. But I feel like it's a great invitation for us to look at the context of gratitude in our lives. And so I planned to do a little talk today. We'll see how it evolves here. Hi, Marcia. Focusing on specifically gratitude and mindset and Ayurveda. So I have some readings that I want to share with you all as part of this live today, and also some teachings from Ayurveda and what I have learned in my years of working with changing my own mindset and teaching and coaching other people in working with theirs as well. So, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that the holidays are a time that is complex. Shall we just say that? It's often a time that holds a lot of emotion for people, lots of memories, lots of expectation, maybe pressure, maybe challenges. And it's also a time when we have the ideal of being in a place of gratitude, of showing up in a way that is really nourishing for everybody that we're engaging with, and that there's some trepidation often around that. One of my favorite quotes from Ram Dass is he said, "If you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your family." And that really speaks to the fact that most of us revert when we're around our family. So we turn into children or lose some of the skills that we've cultivated to use in other parts of our lives. And that's totally normal. Another person that I have been following more recently is Kristin Neff, who is a self-compassion researcher. And she has some really beautiful things to say. I'll get to one of them in just a little bit about finding self-compassion for ourselves in any given moment when we're not necessarily our best selves. And there's a lot of research coming out about the power of gratitude and how if we can be in a place of gratitude, and some of you may have done the yoga practice that I led this morning. If you missed that, go back to November 23rd, 2021. And there's this practice where I'm leading you through sending out gratitude to lots of different people in your life for their presence and what they teach you and what they offer in terms of your growth. So that kind of gratitude can be a perspective that allows us to embrace the situations that we're in a different way. So we change our our reactions or our how we're relating to, how we're coming into conversation with the greater world and conversation with other people. So, gratitude allows us to celebrate what is, to put on the lens, to look at where we are, what we're doing through the lens of appreciation versus what's wrong. And a lot of us, it's human nature. We evolved to look for danger in each situation. And it's interesting to see how, we evolved from humans that lives were in danger by fierce, ferocious animals at certain points, and, or the things that make us stressed or that we feel our nervous systems fire up about are not actually life-threatening most of the time these days, but they feel very serious to us. And so when we can really focus on staying centered within ourselves in a place of gratitude, then that helps us engage with the world differently, which also means that we're changing, and that change might surprise some other people. They might be like, well, I'm used to you being a certain way, and now you're no longer being a certain way. Not sure what to do with that. Hopefully, it will be well received, but who knows, right? So, part of being on this evolutionary path, if you're in this community, you're interested in this, right? You're interested in these explorations of yoga, of Ayurveda. And each of us has a tendency, depending on our dosha combination or our imbalances, towards what we notice in situations. So if you are more vata predominant or vata imbalanced, you will be looking for danger, meaning like, how are things going to not be safe in a situation? And that's going to be your natural tendency. Now this can be used supportively in certain ways, but it's also helpful to just pay attention to when that's showing up when it doesn't need to be. And there's heightened anxiety often for somebody who's dealing with elevated vata, so they're anxious in situations. Pitta predominant people or pitta imbalanced people can tend towards looking for flaws in things. Okay, so how things aren't done, quote unquote, right. Or that can be turned towards being very self-critical and feeling like you need to show up perfectly. And if you don't, then it ruins everything for everybody. So it's this very like um, fiery positioning on how things roll. And if you're more kapha predominant or kapha imbalanced, there can tend to be a lack of enthusiasm, a lack of engagement, and not putting much effort forth, or that there's a lot of um, hesitancy about like large crowds or having to um, be seen and show up in certain, holiday situations that might be happening. So just want to put that out there. Maybe some of that resonates with you. I want to read a piece. This is from a book by David White, who is one of my favorite writers, one of my favorite, well, he writes prose and poetry. And this is a book called Consolations. And the second title is The Solace, Nourishment, and Underlying Meaning of Everyday Words. So one of those words is gratitude. And I want to read to you what David White writes about gratitude. And to, again, come back to this invitation to show up at this time of Thanksgiving, of giving thanks from a place of gratitude, a gratitude for your life, gratitude for what you're learning, gratitude for your ability to change, gratitude for all that is possible in this world, as challenging and chaotic and seemingly frustrating it can be a lot of the time. So, tuning in to gratitude, here's what David White has to say. Gratitude is not a passive response to something we have been given. Gratitude arises from paying attention, from being awake in the presence of everything that lives within and without us. Gratitude is not necessarily something that shows up, that is shown after the event. It is the deep, a priori, Latin, state of attention that shows we understand and are equal to the gifted nature of life. Gratitude is the understanding that many millions of things come together and live together, and mesh together and breathe together in order for us to take even one more breath of air. That the underlying gift of life and incarnation as a living, participating human being is a privilege. That we are miraculously part of something rather than nothing. Even if that something is temporarily pain or despair, we inhabit a living world with real faces, real voices, laughter, the color blue, the green of the fields, the freshness of a cold wind, or the tawny hue of a winter landscape. To see the full miraculous essentiality of the color blue is to be grateful with no necessity for a word of thanks. To see fully the beauty of a daughter's face is to be fully grateful without having to seek a God to thank him. To sit among friends and strangers, hearing many voices, strange opinions, to intuit inner lives beneath surface lives, to inhabit many worlds at once in this world, to be a someone amongst all other someones, and therefore to make a conversation without saying a word is to deepen our sense of presence and therefore our natural sense of thankfulness that everything happens both with us and without us, that we are participants and witness all at once. Thankfulness finds its full measure of generosity, of presence, both through participation and witness. We sit at the table as part of every other person's world while making our own world without will or effort. This is what is extraordinary and gifted. This is the essence of gratefulness, seeing to the heart of privilege. Thanksgiving happens when our sense of presence meets all other presences. Being unappreciative might mean we are simply not paying attention. Isn't that beautiful? So that last part really speaks to where I want to go next, which is about paying attention and how when we cultivate curiosity, how will this day go? How will it feel to eat this amazing food? What will it be like to see somebody I haven't seen in a long time? And to live in these questions, to cultivate that creates an energy around what we may be about to experience. And that that invitation of presence means putting down the phone, putting down the work, putting away the things that we get caught up with in our day to day, and to not try to combine where we usually are with where we choose to be during the holidays, and to allow ourselves to be fully present, which means curious, being curious with where we are and allowing where we are, how we're engaging, the conversations that we show up to change us, to have an impact on our lives. I made a recent post about I did a day of a tech detox. So I didn't turn my phone on, I didn't get my computer out, and I had a day where I was just doing what I was doing at each given time. And we've been shown by recent research that our draw towards multitasking is actually really upsetting to our nervous system. And so, from an Ayurvedic perspective and a yogic perspective, even, one of the limbs of yoga is one pointed focus. What does this do? It calms our nervous system. It allows our senses to relax. It allows our bodies to rejuvenate and not be on all the time. One pointed focus, presence, mindfulness. So I want you to notice if you're looking at your phone all the time, if you feel like you have to check in with the greater world via social media, if you feel like you are missing something because you're so in the sticky technology world, that you're not being present, that you're not showing up with curiosity right where you are, knowing that this is all that's needed. It's a challenge in our world where we feel like we need to be doing multiple things at once or we're not being productive. But a holiday like Thanksgiving invites us into this different way of being. It's an invitation to change, to create change in our lives. And Kristin Neff, who I mentioned earlier, um, she has this really wonderful quote. And I teach so much about change in the work that I do, and I am very curious about it in my own life, that I'm constantly implementing and exploring different ways that I can change to be more curious, to be more aware, to be more awake, to live into the potential of what is possible in this lifetime, which I am very curious about for myself and all of you. But change is an inherent part of what transpires when we decide to explore, to get curious. And so she says we can be hard on ourselves to force ourselves to change, to say we must do this to get some outcome we want, or we can find a place of self-compassion and know that we are making certain changes from a place of deep self-care. So maybe it's, and I'll get to this quote in one second, but maybe it's that you choose to go to this holiday experience with a really different mindset. Perhaps it's that you aren't coming at it from, well, I'm just going to eat a ton because everybody eats a ton every year, and I'm just going to feel gross afterwards, and I'm always going to have seconds or thirds or whatever. This is just an example. There's plenty of other pieces around Thanksgiving, but I think this is one that a lot of people can relate to. And what if you show up to this amazing, bountiful meal with the mindset that you are choosing to deeply nourish yourself, and that you really want to taste all the flavors in each of the things on your plate, that you want to chew slowly and to really pay attention to when you feel satiated, and that that is the greatest gift. Now that's a change, and that's a mindset change that then affects your body and how you feel energetically. And it might be something that's really feels really hard to do. And when we have the mindset where we're looking at making shifts from a self-compassionate place versus a self-punitive place, then that creates all the difference. So Kristin Neff says, it's not that I have to change in order to be accepted. So this is what we can tell ourselves. It's not that I have to change in order to be accepted. It's that I want to change because I care about myself and I do not want to suffer. Let me read that again. This is our inner statement to ourselves. This is what we can tell ourselves. It's not that I have to change in order to be accepted. It's that I want to change because I care about myself and I don't want to suffer. So, what if we make our choices from this place of deep self-compassion and deep self-integrity, from how much we're socializing, to how much we're drinking, to what we choose to say or do in our interactions, and how we pay attention to our own nervous systems, to our breath. Are we breathing? Are we allowing the energy to flow in our own bodies, or do we get tight and contracted and feel like we leave ourselves, we abandon ourselves so that we can somehow numb out or not fully show up? There's the in Ayurveda, there's this concept of koshas, which is the 5 layers of the body. One is the physical body, and then there's 4 other ones. And one of those is the manomaya kosha, which is the mind. And there's a term, manobala. So mano means mind, bala means strength. So mind, strength. And this is basically, if we look at modern day, what would we call this? This would be mindset. It would be our ability to choose how we think of and perceive anything, ourselves, other people, what happens, right? And can we come to a place where that mind strength is a tool so that we don't allow ourselves to get overwhelmed or stressed out or in a tizzy or take things too seriously or become hypersensitive? That we have the strength of our mind, of what we know is in the deepest integrity of ourselves. And then we show up to engage with the external world from that place of strength within ourselves. So this is really powerful in terms of changing habits and changing our minds, is that when we decide things here, when we have a shift in how we perceive of the world and of ourselves, like David White was talking about, we are both in our own universe and part of this external universe. And when we can show up not fully giving over to the external universe, knowing from behavioral science that we are social creatures, that humans would rather belong than make choices that are not what other people are making. We know this from behavioral research. We want to belong more than anything. But here's a challenge I want to give to you, is that you can be a leader. You can offer things to other people from the place of you being in integrity with yourself. If drinks are being served, maybe you say, hey, I would rather have a cup of tea. Does anybody else want a cup of tea? And see that maybe there's some other people. A lot of us go along with tradition or with what we think other people want, which is a lot of assuming. It would be great if we had more conversations about these things. And we have those conversations and we offer an alternative. And you might be surprised as to who wants to come along with you, who's curious about what you're trying out, the experiments you're running in your life, because you're really enlivened by them. You're curious. And that is exciting to other people. So making sure that our choices are from our highest good. And if you choose, say you haven't been eating sugar lately, but you choose to have pie or cake or whatever, enjoy it, right? Don't come from a place of like, oh, I'm going to do this because it's Thanksgiving, but it's really not. Don't create that inner conflict. You can choose to create ease. Enjoy it. It's Thanksgiving. Do what feels exciting and best to you, but not from a place of numbing out. Staying awake and aware from this place of gratitude. What are you grateful for in every situation? Grateful for the opportunity to continue to learn, to grow, to awaken, to choose, to get curious, to try experiments, to do things differently. Very exciting. So this is cause for celebration. So here's a poem by John O'Donohue, who was friends with David White, about celebration. This is his poem from his book, To Bless the Space Between Us, a book of blessings. And this is a blessing for celebration. Now is the time to free the heart. Let all intentions and worries stop. Free the joy inside the self. Awaken to the wonder of your life. Open your eyes and see the friends whose hearts recognize your face as kin. Those whose kindness, watchful and near, encourages you to live everything here. See the gifts of the years. See the gifts the years have given, things your effort could not ever earn. The health to enjoy who you want to be, and the mind to mirror mystery. Isn't that a great poem? So I hope that this inspires you. I hope that you feel like maybe if there's apprehension or tension or any kind of challenge around this coming holiday for you, that this was helpful for you to shift to a place of curiosity, to gratitude, to inner alignment with yourself. And I'm really curious to hear your feedback from a place of what you're exploring right now. So send in your questions or your reports as to how things go, and let me know if this was helpful for you. Again, this alignment of mindset and Ayurveda teachings and gratitude. Thank you all for being here. I hope you have a fabulous Thanksgiving, and I will see you all next week. Be well.